Check.
Cool. We're running. Hi, my name is Sarah.
My name is Mujib.
And welcome to another episode of Let's Get To It. This is episode 24, and we're going to talk about excellence.
Yeah, totally.
Which is, right, it's a big topic. Could go in a lot of different ways, but I've just been thinking a lot about excellence lately. And what does it take? First of all, what does excellence even mean? How do we want to talk about this today? And what does it look like to cultivate excellence, achieve excellence? It's a lot.
And how would you define excellence? Thinking of that. Yeah.
Oh, a great question. Great lead off. We're not working from any notes today, you guys. This is on the fly. I'm going to mess up this quote. But the spirit of this quote that I'm going to paraphrase and recite is, to not characterize excellence as sort of a one-off, that excellence is a daily routine, sort of how you live your life. Living a life of, when I think of excellence, I just generally think of a work ethic, a daily commitment to, I don't know, I hate to say, doing your best is so cliche. Just bringing what you can to the table, showing up. I guess is a better way for me to say it, but rising to the top. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
Totally.
That's kind of what I think of.
Totally. I think about performance when I think about it. One's ability to rise to an occasion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when we think about excellence and we think about it in terms of of competition or something like that, it's the difference between being able to show up and be your best person when you show up every time or not, you know. And if we talk about championships or things like that, sure, there are plenty excellent ball players or whatever, but not everybody brings their excellence to every single moment when it matters the most. And I think that oftentimes, even if we just take it back to regular life, like you or I as trainers or just people, professionals, the difference between me just being and me being excellent is about who do I show up as in that moment? Do I show up as my highest self? Do I show up with excellence in mind, or am I just kind of going through the courses of my day or whatever?
Yeah, and that kind of makes me think too, from the trainer side, level of engagement. Really participating, not listening, and just really, there's so much that encompasses that on the trainer side. If you're not just the one competing,
right.
But if you're the one coaching, what does it take to be an excellent coach? Right, showing up for your players or showing up for that client, and not just being there necessarily.
Right. Well, it makes me think back to so many ideas of personal awareness. You know what I mean? So in order to cultivate excellence, you need to have a level of self-awareness. You have to, one has to be looking at themselves to say where can I get better, or what do I need to improve on, or what do I need to practice in this moment. And I think about that as a trainer, watching somebody work out. Those are the questions that I'm asking myself. Where am I seeing that this person can shore this thing up, or where am I seeing that they're doing really well right now, and how can we ride that wave? So it's that constant engagement, as you just put it. If I'm gonna be thinking about the next 4 appointments that I have, or what I'm going to do when I'm done with my day or something like that, then I'm not going to be able to show up there with the excellence that I know I can bring to my job or to my duty. Right?
Yeah.
But if I'm there and engaged with every step, every swing, then I'm going to be able to offer you an excellent experience, really.
Well, exactly. And the reason why I mentioned that is because we're coming off of just having trained together.
Right.
And I was actually thinking about, what makes my session with you feel so good, feel so excellent. And part of that is the engagement. So, if I'm swinging well, to get that feedback. If, I had a couple botched reps on my snatches, so you added 2 more. Full disclosure. So kind of that engagement in real time shows me okay, you're in this,
right.
And then we can all rise to the occasion. That helps. I want to be a better, I come train with you to be a better athlete, and also in turn be a better coach. And I also think that excellence breeds excellence, and attracts excellence as well. And I think if you want to be in that echelon, then surround yourself with other excellent people. And don't, we can be in such a competitive culture and be so worried or self-conscious, like, it can be a little bit fearful sometimes, like, especially if you're feeling competitive within your own industry. But it's like, no, I mean, chase those other excellent people. Like, what are they doing? Like, I feel like we've had this conversation all the time too. Like, okay, like, oh, I see what she's done on her website. Like, I'm going to ask her about it, And then you might be surprised how people in your industry are also like, oh yeah, I'm happy to like engage with you and talk to you about, or this is a photographer I recommend, or like, this is, I learned how to do it by doing this. Yeah, I just like seek out other excellent people, especially in your field, if you want to get better.
Right. And, it's the idea of steel sharpening steel, right? So, like, if you have excellent people around you, or if I'm trying to seek out a bunch of high caliber trainees, right, as a trainer. So if I want to have, now, don't get me wrong, like, I love the whole spectrum. I want my beginner, but I also want my pro, and I want to have my pro, both for the exposure to training pro athletes, but at the same time also for the type of trainer that's going to make me have to become in order to serve these people. So in my own experience, my own trajectory, to get to this point where I can offer somebody like you who's a high level athlete the type of program that makes you still crave coming back, that's the years of me looking at my own craft and trying to become better at it, not ever stopping and saying like, okay, well, I'm good, I'm already the best, I'm the only one, I don't need to do anything different, what I mean? But instead looking at that and saying like, okay, I'm good, I'm the only one, I already feel like I'm at my best, but in order for me to still be there at the highest echelon, I'm going to have to continue to learn, I'm going to have to continue to push my own ability, and going to have to also be, like, I love butting up against my own limits because it allows me to see what is it that I need to work on. But then I also love putting myself in situations where I'm dealing with those people that I admire, like my own trainers, the people who train me how to be a trainer, and to show up at these certifications as an assistant, or to write and have these people read my articles and say like, wow, that's really a great point that you're making. Because it makes me have to realize that not only am I going to be able to show up and impress that beginner or that moderate, but I'm also going to be able to show up and impress that pro. And if we talk about sport, I mean, the number one is, in boxing, the number one is fighting the number one contender. So the champion is fighting the second best fighter in the world every single time. You know what I mean? And
that second best fighter is always craving to fight the best fighter.
Right.
Because that's your shot.
That's it. That's what you do. I once was reading about Olympic, like, rings, like people who do the rings in the Olympics, and they were talking about how every year or every time the Olympics comes around, or every age, like every generational gap, how they just get crazier and better and better and better and better. And the reason that I kind of gleaned from the article was how you have this 6-year-old looking up to the 12-year-old, who's looking up to the 18-year-old, who's looking up to the veteran. So you have this 6-year-old who's watching somebody who's going to win a gold medal do what they do. How does a gold medalist train? How does a gold medalist eat? How does a gold medalist perform? At 6, so that by the time they're 18, they're ready. They're itching for their shot. They've won a couple of golds in their junior Olympics. They're ready to go to qualifiers, and by the time they get there, they're already so high at the top of their game that it just breeds excellence. So as a trainee or even a trainer, trying to get ourselves into those situations in which we're surrounded by that, to push ourselves higher and higher. I love it.
I think too, what I was thinking about is there's such a fine line between, confidence and then being overconfident. And I think like having enough humility to know that there's room for improvement, that you can always do better or get better, and also be willing to face either your fear of failure, right? We have a failure podcast, check it out, or critique, like, again, having that self-awareness, like, okay, my jump shot is weak as shit. So I have to go out and practice my jump shot until it's no longer weak as shit, right? If you want to be the best, and not just shying away. Like, I'm going to use a couple basketball analogies because I used to play and I used to be a point guard, and I did not like going to my left side, and whatever, we can't go back. But sometimes, like, I would avoid going left because I knew my left was my weak side. And you know what? If I could do it all over again, I would have worked on my left, right. And then always gone left and be like, you know what? I'm going to beat you with my left hand. It didn't go that way for me. But I know now, the older, wiser me, to train your weak spots. Know what those are. And Mujib and I were talking earlier, just kind of a pre-conversation, talking about, the Michael Jordans and the Tiger Woodses out there that just, things can always be improved. Like, how can you continue to get better and not, Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, Kobe Bryant, like, just not, there's this level of, like, insatiableness, like not ever being truly satisfied. And I think in some ways it's tough, right? Because that drives people to greatness and championships, and it can there's also a darker side to that, right? This sort of like, it's never enough. And so I don't want to talk about like that kind of work ethic as like the end all be all, that's how you should be in every situation, because there's absolutely a dark side to it. Right. But it's just interesting. It's just something to like, to really navigate, like this idea that you don't want to settle, but also knowing when is it time to like wrap up. Tom Brady coming off his 7th Super Bowl win, remarkable, incredible. Is he going to come back? Yes or no? Do you this notion, like, do you Michael Jordan leaving the game after that 3rd championship in a row, or 6, right? 6 championships, 6 rings, amazing. And actually, if I hope I'm not misquoting this, I believe in his the documentary that's out. I think he's maybe a little bit regretful of not coming back that following year. Right. When to walk away. Right? Do you walk out on top, or do you sort of risk like that fall from grace? Right.
I mean, Jordan is definitely his championship years overshadow his years for the Wizards. His years for the Wizards, kind of, people forget that he came back and played. You know what I mean? And like, it's because he didn't have that same step. His knees weren't the same. He couldn't just dive all over everybody and dunk on everybody all the time. Like, so they're when it comes to sport, I think that I actually, I'll say it like this because you made me think about it this way. It just comes back to that. Do I have enough awareness to see where I can still improve, and do I have enough awareness and enough? Can I be scrupulous enough to see if I can't improve anymore? And at that point, do I need to change directions? Right, become the coach instead of the player. That sort of idea. Yeah.
Well, and kind of swinging back to Tiger Woods. No pun intended. That just came to me. Winning his 15th championship, winning the Masters in 2019 with a fused back. People being like, oh, he's done, writing him off. What drives these, not just athletes, but what drives a person, especially when everybody's saying like, oh, you're done. There's something inside that's like, I'm going to prove you wrong. Right. Like, so there's that too, but there's, I could speak about pro athletes all day long. I would love to be on sports talk radio maybe one day.
Oh, wow.
But what about for the lay person? Right? Because we're not all Michael Jordans and Tiger Woodses and Tom Brady's out there. And shout out to the ladies, Venus Williams, Serena Williams. Gotta get some.
It really makes me think about Simone Biles, actually. If you watch some of those kind of time lapse of her figuring out how to do some of those big moves, there's a lot of pain and impact and other things that go on with trying to figure out how to do some big brand new movement that nobody's ever done before. And kind of to segue that into just being the layman or the average person in the world, not a paid professional athlete, there is a lot of that. Like, is it worth this? This rigor that I'm going to have to do? Like, oh, I want to be excellent. Okay, so I'm going to have to spend the next 5 years studying.
Yeah.
I want it right now. Like, there's no instant gratification in working for 5 years to get to the end goal of just being able to start the next thing that you're trying to start. You know what I mean? So, I think that when we talk about excellence, whether we're talking about somebody who's paid to work that hard or somebody who's trying to get themselves into a position where they can get paid to work hard, it comes from dedication. It comes from that personal, the phrase that keeps coming through my head is the whole, like, if you can see it and believe it, then you can achieve it sort of idea. That's not an easy thing though. Like, if I can believe that I can do something, then I have to look at if I believe that I can do it, then what is it going to take for me to do it? Okay, well, if you believe you can do it, then it's going to take X, Y, Z, A, B, B, all the way up the line to be able to do it. But if you can do that and still survive, then you're going to have whatever it is that you imagine that you could have, And, I even think about my own situation where, I might have a change of events or a change of plans or some sort of pivot that has to happen. I mean, 2020 was that for most people. Right, exactly. Where we're sitting right now is just that. So if you have, this reality that says, like, I can still see that I'm going to get to the level of success that I want, despite the fact that my car is dead and I just got evicted, or X, Y, and Z has happened in my personal life that's, like, making me really question my own ability to do this thing or my own confidence in this thing. That's really what it takes. Like, and when it comes to excellence, it's like, well, if you can't deal with all that, that's the difference between excellence and not.
Yeah, and what I keep thinking about is, and this is for everybody to really pay attention to, because we do live in such an instant gratification society, and now we live in, like, this sort of clickbait society, this kind of, Instagram society where you're seeing a little bit, you're seeing a snapshot, you're not seeing the hours and hours and hours of behind the scenes. And it's just like that I think is doing everybody a disservice, because if we're only showing our best, or we're only showing, like, these quick little snippets and snapshots and clips, and not the hours of training in the weight room if it's athletic specific, or so and so waking up early and going to the gym and shooting 100 foul shots, right? But that Instagram is just, you see that, like, quick, whatever it is, or even just take it out of that to healthcare workers or teachers, like, name your profession, and like you said, sort of the hours and hours of whether it's studying or learning or researching, practicing your writing, like, I guarantee you, like, if you're listening, like, you're probably capable of publishing a novel, and you might not even realize that, but, like, you're super capable of that. Right. Like, if you practiced your writing on a daily basis, if you wrote about, like, whatever, like, there's so much. I love this topic because it makes me think about human potential, and not just physical human potential. Like, literally, Mujib, look over your shoulder. What does that sign say? Right.
Believe in the limitless nature of your potential.
Yes. Believe in the limitless nature of your potential. And I truly believe that. I absolutely believe that, because whatever it is, like, just, we are capable of so much. And I think human beings are absolutely capable of excellence, but, like, you've got to put time and effort into it.
Totally.
It's and it can be difficult, because obviously we do not live in a society that offers us equal and level playing fields to do so, right? So I think the frustrating thing too is you can see folks rising to the top, and we've all been there, like what the fuck? Like, what did he do? What did she do? Or, like, sort of these, and, like, I don't want to, like, call anybody out, but, like, it does happen. You feel like you're getting, this is a really very real and raw thing. Like, you feel like you've gotten passed over. Like, you're working your ass off. You're not getting recognized. You're not getting that promotion. You are putting in the work. And, like, those are the real things that we deal with, right? So the reality to acknowledge as well is that excellence is not always validated and recognized.
Right.
There are a lot of people living a life of excellence kind of, like, in the shadows, right? Or, like, this quiet excellence. That's kind of, like, what I call it. Like, I was even mentioning, like, my boyfriend I was, like, just before we had this conversation, like, he's legitimately this brilliant engineer, and I feel like there's this quiet excellence about him, right? And he's not particularly good at self-promotion. I'm very good at self-promotion. But, you know, so it's like he is absolutely excellent, but, you know, you might not know that. Right? I happen to be better at putting myself out there and broadcasting. Like, this is what I'm excellent. This is me living. Right? But so I want to acknowledge all that out there too. That there's a lot of quiet excellence out there. There's a lot of that.
Yeah, and I feel like, I don't know, the phrase that comes to my head is like, you don't know how much power something has until you plug it into the socket sort of idea, right? Like a plug that's not put in a socket, it's just a plug. Like it doesn't actually show you what it's going to light up until you plug it into the wall, and then you can see what it lights up. So there's this reality that's like, when you provide somebody with potential, with purpose, then you actually do get to see the excellence. You know, so when we were talking about this earlier, I was thinking like, well, like the phrase, the formula, keeps coming into my mind. Like, what is the formula of greatness, or the formula for excellence? Like, you know, it is determination, it is focus, but it's also determination and focus on the right things. You know what I mean? So like, when you use writing as an example, like my sister is a novelist, and she puts herself through the ringer. Like, she writes, she submits her writing, she goes to writing clubs. She's been writing for 30 years, but at the same time, she still realizes that the only way for her to get better at her craft is to put her craft out there, to write and have other people read her writing, and then give her critique and send it back, and so on and so forth. Join those clubs and those little things. Like, you know, I want to be a better trainer all the time. I feel like I'm a good trainer, but I'm obviously not as good as the trainer who I'm going to be after 10 more years of training and studying to be a trainer. And so for me, it's the bridging of the gap there that says, you know, in order for me to be this high level person, what are the things that I need to do the thing? And I think about that when I think about Daryush, and I'm in this space and I'm looking around and I'm saying like, okay, here's somebody who has the idea to do this thing, and then says, well, what do I need to do to bring that idea into reality, and then come out here and do the thing? You know what I mean? And it's just that's where the excellence lies. It's in saying I can do the thing, seeing what's necessary to do the thing, and then actually doing it. You know what I mean? Like, that's just it. And you know, sometimes it is pivoting and saying like, well, I know that I'm gonna be, I have the potential to be excellent at something, and this thing that I'm trying, maybe it's actually not it, but maybe in me learning that this isn't the thing that's gonna lead me to the actual thing that I was meant to do in the first place. You know what I mean? You know, in some ways, you know, I think that we end up sometimes in different places than we expected. Yeah. You know? Yeah. As humans, just period, not just you or I, but like everybody, you know, we set out to do something, and in doing that thing, it kind of leapfrogs us to a whole nother industry or group of people or community that we didn't necessarily, that's not what I set out to do, but that's where I ended up, you know? Yeah. You know?
Oh, I love that. And I think that's also just such I love the word nugget. It's just such a really great nugget too, like a takeaway that, you know, especially for anybody that's really feels like you're kind of circulating, like you're like, oh, I feel so close, but I don't quite, you know, feel like I'm hitting my stride, and you're just kind of bouncing back and forth in the water, like, you know, and it's really funny to hear you say that, because I think back to my high school self, and I remember this was some kind of like graduation project. I think as high schoolers, we had to say like, you know, what we wanted to be when we grew up, like as if you definitely know when you're 18. Some people do. But it was really interesting. When I was 18, I kind of told everybody I thought I would be a teacher. And I'm not so far off. I think that my 18-year-old self was thinking a classroom teacher, was thinking academics. But it's just kind of funny how my 37-year-old self, like, I'm very much a teacher, but I'm not in a traditional classroom, like, you know, teaching reading, writing, or arithmetic. But it did come to fruition in just a different way, and it came in a very roundabout way. Right. So, do you remember, like, back when you were 18, like, I don't know, what you were telling people, like, because everybody asks that, like, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah. Right? I feel like I always knew I was gonna have a company. You know, I didn't know what it was gonna be. I wanted to open like almost like a youth club, you know, not like a youth center, but like a place that you could project movies and that like 16-year-olds could go to and skateboard inside and watch movies and play arcade and like basically just have a place that young kids who are typically getting into trouble outside in the world can like go into and do this thing.
Yeah.
That owning restaurants is something that I thought about as a kid.
Yeah.
I still believe I'm going to do all of those things personally. And I think that I didn't necessarily see the avenue to get there, or I didn't realize that this was going to be my vehicle to becoming a person who has influence over what I can do and how I might affect other people's lives. You know, I always knew that was going to be something that I was going to do, and I think that's what it is like when we first get the grand idea, you don't. There's no way to know all of the pieces that are going to go into it. You know, like yes, you're going to be a teacher, but maybe if you put in front of your 18-year-old self, like, here's the grand spectrum of teaching people stuff.
Right.
You would be like, oh, yeah, athletic teacher, I get to wake up and exercise all day? Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
I love that. You know what I mean? Versus, like, no, you're going to be a 9th grade history teacher, you know?
Right.
Right. That sort of idea. Like, maybe that's not your vibe. Maybe that is your vibe if you're listening and you're like, that's my vibe. I'm a history teacher. I love it. You know, I had a good history teacher.
I did too. Shout out to all the history teachers out there.
Right. You're kind of hamstringed already to teach American history.
Oh,
Jeez.
God help you. That's really interesting, though. And I also, you know, thinking, because I'm back now in my 18-year-old self, I don't think I ever in a million years, like if you told my 18-year-old self that I'm going to be doing what I do now, I don't think I would have believed it.
Right.
Because I had such a different view of myself. You know, it wasn't a super confident kid. It wasn't, you know, I felt like I wasn't living an excellent mindset. You know, I always felt like, okay, I'm not the best kid on the basketball team. I'm not, you know, basically my argument would have been if you said, you know, you're going to be a fitness entrepreneur, let's just put it that way. And I'd be like, I don't know how, I don't know anything about exercise science, and I'm not the best at any of the sports I play. Because my 18-year-old self would have said, you know, this is what I need to do that. And in fact, you know, I didn't have to be the best basketball player on my team to do what I do now. Right. So it's just really, it's kind of interesting, like, you know, what you do kind of pick up along the way and how we do evolve. And also that mindset, like I'm just, in terms of how I think about myself is much more positive and less degrading than it was in my youth and certainly in my 20s. Which also brings me to, we have a great podcast on self-worth and confidence. You guys, if you are not caught up on the last 23 episodes, like pause, go back and then join us later, because there's so much rich content like that we weave throughout these episodes, and it's just so connected. But yeah, that, you know, I think for excellence, you have to have that self-awareness, understanding, and a sense of self-worth, because if you don't believe in yourself, you know, if you don't think you can achieve that thing, and especially if, you know, people are telling you no, or doors are going to, you know, this is going to happen, like doors are going to get slammed in your face, or your car's going to break down, or it's not just like a steady trajectory to excellence at all. And excellence has a way of weeding people out.
That's just it. Like, that's the thing. Excellence requires sacrifice.
Yes.
Like, it requires it. It's like, you have to say, you want this thing, well, you're gonna have to be better to get it. Okay, well then, either I'm going to do everything that I need to do to get better, or I'm not. Right? And then I'm just gonna change my idea of what I want to do, you know, and that's gonna give you an idea to be excellent at that thing too. But it's also gonna give you the red pill or the green pill. Like, choose one. What do you want to do the work to reach what you're trying to reach, or not, you know? And you say, okay, choose your own adventure. Next door. Here's 2 doors again. Yeah. Like, are you going to do work to get somewhere, or are you going to just keep on doing what you want to do? And eventually, either you have a breakthrough and you find that, oh, wow, this makes all the sense in the world, why I didn't do all those other things, because I found love in this direction and X, Y, and Z, and like now I'm in this beautiful world and I love myself. Or we keep on just kind of bouncing from one thing to the other, trying to figure out what it is that what's my purpose in this world. You know what I mean? Because I'm trying to, again, if purpose is what drives the actualization of potential, I'm trying to find my purpose. I'm trying to figure out what it is that's going to allow me to blossom myself, right? I came to a realization at some point on the path. It's like everybody doesn't make it. Like, I can have all the best intentions. I can try to do every single thing and still just not make it. You know what I mean? Because it's just the way that it is. Like, that's the world. And maybe for me in that scenario, maybe the path was the destination. You know what they say, like, the journey's the destination in the first place. Now, I personally, like, my own personality is not that per se. Like, it's kind of like either I'm gonna do it or I'm gonna die doing it, like that sort of idea.
The 50 Cent theory.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, right. But with the caveat that if I do die doing it, then I don't have to worry. I don't have to worry about it, because I did it. I tried my best. I did the whole thing. You know, I went for it. And for me, there's a lot to be said for that. But I was also a slacker for a long time. Like, there were years where I just, like, somebody asked me the other day, it's like, why did you move to Vermont? And an old friend of mine, I hadn't seen him in years, and I'd known him for 20 years, longer than that. Wow. Officially at the point where I've known people for like 25 years.
I know.
And
We're
like,
getting up there.
25 years.
Yeah.
And I love that somebody's listening and laughing. Like,
I know. They're like, what, these kids?
50 years.
Sorry.
Either way. But this person was asking me, he's like, why did you move to Vermont? You know? And I had this, like, grand idea in my mind of what brought me here to Vermont. Like, oh, I saw this grand opportunity and this and that. And then I got to explaining to him, like, the chronology of my landing in Vermont. And I said, man, I moved here because I didn't have any direction. I didn't. It was an easy place to come and slack off. I didn't have any direction, and nothing here required me to need to be better than I was, Whereas where I was coming from, everything requires you to be better than you are. Either you're going to continue to grow and evolve as a human being, or you're gonna be a bum. And not just like a person who doesn't have a home or can't provide for themselves, but maybe you can provide for yourself. Maybe you do have a home, but you're still like you're still at the lower level than what you're trying to be, or what you have the potential to be. And not to say that everybody needs to be a high achiever, but for me, from where I come from my ancestry, the people who I look at, there's a level of, like, acceptance for what I'm doing that I need to have. Like, I can't just wake up every day and be like, all right, it's noon and I'm gonna go and make some waffles and go and fuck somebody over now, and, like, that's my life. I don't think I could last like that for a long time. In fact, I know I couldn't last for a long time because I did that type of shit. Like, I was definitely a person who tried to scrape the bottom of the barrel and just, like, I can just live down here as low as I can possibly live. That's not as fun as trying to achieve these higher levels of excellence. Like, when I look at my goals list, both what I've checked off and what I have to go for, I'm just like, wow, like, this is a fucking cool life. Like, even just checking off the things that I've checked off so far, it's been really cool to strive to that. And I'm the type of person that says, like, if you're going to have a list of goals, like, set them beyond what you're already capable of doing. You know what I mean? Because then that's going to allow me to grow into this person who's capable of doing this thing. I'm not just going to look and be like, okay, I wish I could have this beautiful life here, and maybe if 6 was 9, I would have that beautiful life there. But in reality, it's like, it isn't like that. You can literally get whatever you can picture. It just might take sacrificing everything that right now. It might take going somewhere else right now and doing that. It might take going into a hiatus for 2 years, not going out for a while, avoiding certain people, avoiding certain situations, avoiding certain actions.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to do it, then you can have whatever it is that you want,
I keep, like, literally, I always have this, like, flashing signs of words in my head, like,
I love that.
And this idea that, which you mentioned, which is sacrifice, and there's always like, greatness requires sacrifice, and the path to excellence is not always fun. It can be full of joy, and it's definitely a wild ride for sure, but it's definitely not always fun, and it's certainly not easy. And it's you know, we've both kind of had to contend with this. You know, if you're training a client early in the morning and, you know, and you got to get up before 5 a.m. so that you're fresh for your client, because your client can roll in with crusty eyeballs and, you know, whatever, you know, they're paying you, so that's fine. But like, if we want to be excellent trainers, like, we can't roll up to the session like that, right? So what does it take then? Like, we've got to wake up that extra hour earlier, you know, depending on how much time you need, or like to splash cold water on your face and drink the caffeine and put the 2 chains on and the commute, like whatever it is. Like, knowing that though, how can I like show up for this situation? What do I have to give up? I mean, I remember starting my business and pretty much telling my friends and family, like, unless you book a class with me, you're not going to see me for a couple of years. I was fine with that. I think other people had to make some adjustments, and I definitely, like, I totally experienced like people no longer asking me to hang out, you know, because often I wasn't able to. And, you know, there was only so long that some folks were like, all right, well, we're kind of sick of asking Sarah to come do fill in the blank and she's not showing up. You know, and things have since, like, you know, things eventually changed. But I, you know, I remember for me that first 2 years, it was just like, I'm on my grind. Like, this is my commitment. Like, this is when I'm pouring my energy and effort. And we've kind of talked about this. If you know, I've mentioned this before. I don't believe in the myth that you are going to be excellent at a lot of different things at the same time. I feel like you can live an excellent life or aspire to excellence, but there's still a budget of time that's happening. So, you know, I really don't believe in the myth that like everything is like amazing, like firing on all cylinders all the time.
No, it can't be.
You know, it can't be. And I was just thinking too about, like, you know, Mujib and I have both historically not been doing kind of like the video thing, pivoting with COVID, and like, you know, us being sort of, I really don't agree that we're millennials. Like, I hate that categorization because we're in our late 30s, but whatever. I think some folks would put us in the millennial category, but we're, you know, whatever, like, not the TikTok generation, let's put it that way. So really having to like learn, you know, like ins and outs of technology. Like, we're not, you know, stupid about it, but you know, us putting ourselves online and the amount of hours it is taking. So it's like, I sort of think about excellence as this iceberg. So like, often you're just gonna see like that very tip, right? Or like you see someone accepting an award for like their business, or you see someone putting on the championship ring, but you didn't see all like the giant shit below the surface that person or that team or whatever had to do to get the thing. And, you know, one thing I think we have to be really careful of too is, and I get it, it's a very, I think, natural reaction for people. You know, you see someone achieve something maybe you want, then you go, oh, they're so lucky. And that's not to say that sometimes a stroke of luck, or, you know, it's in the stars, like it's part of, you know, I'm sure things have happened on my path that, like, I don't know if it's luck, I don't know if it's coincidence, I don't know, like, you know, we sort of just kind of catch something at the right time. There's definitely that happening in the universe, but for the most part, it's, you know, there's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of hard work involved. And like, just because you didn't witness the iceberg thing, like you're only witnessing like the crowning achievement and you didn't see everything that went into it, just check yourself.
Well, here's I was talking with somebody the other day. I was listening to two people have a conversation. I was just kind of like a fly on the wall for it. But they were talking about Tom Brady, right? And they were talking about his regimen as a person. They're like, you know, he always goes to sleep. He sleeps 9 hours a night, goes to sleep by 9 o'clock, wakes up at 6 a.m., you know, diligent about his exercise routine, massage routine, meditation routine, eating, nutrition, all of that. And one of the guys was like, sounds like a pretty boring life. And I was like, but it's the sacrifice that he has to be able to play this game and win the fucking Super Bowl.
Right.
Like, does that seem boring to you? Like, to be on the field under all the confetti and shit like that, and everybody taking pictures, and you being like, I'm going to Disneyland.
Yeah.
Like, that sounds like it's pretty fun. You know,
Yeah.
it sounds like he gets to go and he gets to play his game at the height of his ability.
Yeah.
It sounds like he gets out there and he takes a snap and he's not worried that is the next hit going to be the end of my career, because he knows he's done all the work to be able to get there. And I think about that when I think about like the professionalism and just being here in the space that we're in right now. Like, do we continuously strive to put ourselves in a position so that if the floor falls out from under us, is the next hit going to be the end of my career? You know?
Right. Oh, yeah.
Or can I take that hit because I prepared myself to take that hit, because I'm constantly thinking about how to better myself, even when I'm on a high. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a reality that not only is there a lot of work to get to that place, but it's constant. It's forever, because and I don't say that as a daunting thing. Like, I want my work to be forever. I love what I do, and I love who it is that I look at and I see going forward. And I think that it's pretty hard to sustain what I'm going to be able to sustain going down the line. But I love everything that it's taking to get me to that point. And you know, I do a lot of hard shit, like myself, like personally, like I challenge myself often. And it's not just like waking up early in the morning. It's like what I'm doing in those early morning hours, and the levels of my knowledge that I'm trying to expand, and exploring into concepts that I don't understand, or things that I've tried to study in the past, but I haven't had the capacity to be able to understand them, and now I can comprehend them. So I'm now, oh goodness gracious, now the door is wide open. Now I can actually dive down this rabbit hole of knowledge and information. But again, it just takes that steady self-awareness. It takes that steady awareness of the situation, and then it takes doing the necessary thing to be able to take that next step. And that, I think, is really, I don't think there can be excellence without that. You know what I mean? Like, you look at somebody like Jay-Z or you know, even just like Kamala Harris. Like, look at somebody that is in the spotlight right now, where people are like, wow, look at they finally they did it, you know? They could have stopped at any point in time.
Right.
Like when their fucking mom died, or when they're, you know, and they lost their job, or their lover left them, or
President Biden,
right,
whose like entire family died in a car, or lost his children, and
he could have just been like, you know what, I'm just gonna be done here now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go somewhere else and live somewhere else and live a whole different lifestyle. Like, we always have that option to be able to say, like, again, red pill, green pill, choose one. What do you want to do? Like, you can give it all up. You can go and do something else. You have a different background. You have other skills. And go be a manager somewhere. You know what I mean?
Life, I believe this. Like, life will taunt you. Life will give you these outs.
Oh, God, yes.
Constantly. And, you know, it'll be, and it's almost like, oh, God, what did I just see yesterday? Hard. Oh my God, I'm gonna mess up this quote, guys. So send us the fan mail. Hard decisions, easy life. Easy decisions, hard life. I think. I'm gonna get back to you guys on that. The idea behind that, if you're just going, what the fuck did she just say? Is basically like, yes, the outs are always there. Sort of the idea of like taking the easy way out, of dropping out, of just kind of, but again, I don't think that leads to like your highest level of fulfillment or your potential or other things. So oftentimes it's those daily like decisions. When I say sort of like hard decisions, easy life, I mean like sort of those daily difficult decisions that we are saying yes to and working through. And like ultimately you're saying like, I love my life. I love the life that I lead. Is every decision on the daily like easy or fun for me? Not necessarily, but in aggregate, like I love where I'm at.
I need that recommittal. I always want to know, like, is this going the way that I want it to be going? And for me, that's what those outs are. They're those opportunities to say, no, I'm down. Like, I'm down. I'm going to keep going. Okay. What if I take everything away from you? You going to keep going? Fuck yes. That's even more of my example of why I need to keep going. Because now I don't have anything else, you know?
Right.
All the hang-ups, they're gone, you know?
Yeah.
And now I can really just go. Because for me, now again, this is my personality. I say that I moved to Vermont because I didn't want to do anything. I was a low achiever, but I moved to Vermont it's not easy to live here at all.
No, it's
so
not.
when I actually like look at my psyche, at the type of person that I am, I came here because it gave me an opportunity to grow. I could have stayed where I was and just kept on doing whatever I wanted to do and not been forced to grow, not been forced to like set goals for myself, not been forced to like ask myself if I wanted to achieve more than I was doing. You know, I could have just been there and pigeonholed myself into whatever position that I wanted to be in. Now again, I'm from outside of DC, so that's like Howard University. Like I'm around geniuses constantly, like people who are portraying excellence in so many different fields. And so for me, it took me leaving that area, coming here, and trying to define my own self. Like, what is my own level of excellence? How can I get my own self up there? Maybe in the grand scheme of things, it will bring me back down there because it's brought me some goals that make me say that there are things that I still need to do down there. But I'll tell you what, I need to grow into a different type of person to be able to do the things that I want to do down there, right?
Absolutely.
So again, it's all of those opportunities. And I could have called that out too. I could have said like, oh, that's too much. Let's just go in this other direction. I don't know. That's not in me to do that. Like I want the challenge. Like I want the need, the purpose. Like I want to have to grow into something more, not just more, but like I want excellence. I want excellence for myself. I want the highest self that I can be. You know what I mean? Like I want that for myself. I want that for the people around me.
I was just going to say that. I'm totally just going to piggyback right on that, because then I think also maybe our type of personality, sort of you want that from those around you, so you sort of demand it. Like, demand sounds so aggressive, but you expect it from those around you, right? Like, I want to see excellence from my partner. I want to see excellence from my friends, those that you surround yourself with. I think it's just really important, and you kind of, we've talked about this before too, holding each other accountable, putting yourself in a circle with people who are going to hold your feet to the fire sometimes and like tell you the truth. Like, oh, Mujib, it seems like you're slipping a little bit. What's going on? And not just to like give you shit or whatever. Mujib's not slipping. It's just, I'm just saying that. But, I'm very thankful for the people in my life that are going to say like, challenge me, say what's up, or like what's going on, or this seems like, I think when you do start operating at a certain level of excellence, like it's very easy when, to recognize when you're no longer, when you might not be operating at that level, right? Which also exposes vulnerabilities. And you just have to be really comfortable with yourself to either acknowledge like, yeah, I am kind of off, or like maybe I need to take some downtime, and like I am going to take that hiatus or that break. I've got to do some meditation. I've got to do some inner work so that I can come back. And I really, again, like if you guys notice this recurring theme that keeps coming back, that self-awareness, this process of becoming, and, just kind of to know yourself, right? And how you operate, like how I can operate at a level of excellence that works for me might be different than how you operate at your level of excellence, right? It's not necessarily a one size fits all, but there are commonalities to sort of excellent habits, right? And that I would say sort of like the work ethic, or like really like preparation, taking care of yourself. There are certain, like when you said formula, right? There's certain like formulaic elements, but like my needs are going to be different than yours in terms of how we get there at the end of the day. Totally. So the more you can kind of know yourself and know what you need, like if I know, I'm like, okay, I need 2 hours of solitude and peace and quiet every day so I can think and I can journal. Like that's what I need every day so that I can reach my highest self, or I can get to where I want to go. Maybe you're not, maybe the next person over doesn't need that. They're like, no, I need like activity. I need, a lot of stuff going on. That's when I'm hitting my creative stride, or, whatever. So it's just knowing like what you require to really like do your best. And it takes a while to learn that. Like, that's years and years and years of cultivation to like bring that word back.
Yeah, totally. Self-exploration.
Yeah.
You have to figure out what your formula is, what drives you, like what does it do, again, like it's perfect what you said, the thing that works for the one person might be the complete opposite thing for the other person. For somebody who needs that interaction, who needs a bunch of people around to bounce the ideas off of, it's not going to serve you to be by yourself for 2 hours,
right?
but for the person who needs that 2 hours, it's not going to serve you to be around people all the time. So but the only way to know that is to ask yourself.
Right.
To try things and to
put yourself in a different
situation.
Yeah,
exactly.
totally.
To go for it.
Yeah.
You know, and and again, that gets back to excellence. Like the only people or situations that we see that we can say that's an excellent person or excellent situation have gone through this process of shedding what doesn't work in order to find what does work. That's just it. That's what it takes.
I think too, as we kind of like wrap up here, to kind of tie it back to pro sports, when you think of excellent teams, you know, team sports, and you think of how well a coach gels with the players, and sort of this sort of formula, like not everybody is going to respond to the coach that just constantly berates, right? So, you know, kind of again figuring out, like if you're seeking a trainer, for example, figuring out like who and what do you respond best to. Some people are like, sign me up for the dude or the woman that's going to yell in my face and tell me to eat shit. Some people are highly motivated by this. Like, that's fine. Like, you do you. There are coaches out there like that. I know I seek out something different that I find motivating. You know, I don't need to be told how great I am all the time. Like, I want to be challenged. Tell me if I mess up. But delivery is important to me. You know, the ambiance that's created, like how I feel in a space, right? Do I feel welcome? Do I feel like I want to work? What's the energy in the place, right? So again, kind of knowing, you know, if you're searching for an individual trainer, if you're searching for a yoga studio, if you're out there, you're doing cycling, right? We have our favorites for a reason, you know, because certain things are going to motivate you to excel and that are going to tap into that. So
yes, gosh, that's it,
right? So I feel very lucky. Well, it wasn't luck. It wasn't luck that Mujib and I met, but I don't know. We're working together, and it feels good. It feels right, and it feels like we are both able to be our excellent selves at this. Yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys so much for listening to this podcast. We could as always, talk for much longer on this topic. And I think what's due, 25th episode is next. So maybe what's in order is that we kind of go back and we kind of reference like a greatest hits, or like circle back on some of our,
pick some of those points out.
Pick some points out, and like some of those points where we're like, oh, we could elaborate more on this. So we love to hear from you guys. Thank you so much for listening, for downloading the podcast. It can be found on Podbean, Spotify, and iTunes.
Yes.
And we will catch you next time. My name is Sarah.
My name is Mujib.
Have a great day.